day, YouTube? This is SEL0620 representing JVS. I'm back here again for another movie review. This is a non-spoiler review, so don't worry about any kind of spoilers. I will not be doing a spoiler review actually for this one, because to be quite honest with you, being that this is a comedy, being that I actually really enjoyed it, there's no need to go and dissect every single favorite moment, because in general, from the beginning to the end, I was having a ball. I really enjoyed this film. The name of this movie is Central Intelligence. This is starring Kevin Hart and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So the thing about this movie is that I really didn't have any real interest in it. When I saw like the first trailer for it, it just looked so campy and stupid, and I was like, this scene doesn't make sense. Like, there's this one scene where like they're talking and then you see like The Rock pushing him out into a cart and then they just go over it. I was like, this isn't practical. This seems stupid. Now, what brought me back, real talk, is when I saw them together with the, I think it was the MTV Movie Awards, and I was like, they got great chemistry. And even I saw like those Facebook videos where they were on set and they were just ragging on each other. And I gotta say, y'all, I really enjoyed Central Intelligence. To me, this is probably one of the best comedies I've seen in the past 10 years, for me personally. Because I'm a huge fan of movies like Rush Hour, Blue Streak, Double Take, one of my favorites, to be quite honest with you. But this movie actually pulls from a lot of different veins from different things. Like, specifically, amazing comedic timers, such as Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, people like that off the whim, they're able to intrigue the interaction. And I think that Kevin Hart has that comedic timing in this one. I think that a lot of his performance paid homage to that, because it's kind of a fish out of water. But let's go ahead and get into the dynamics of this movie, and I'll try to describe his performance a little bit later on. As far as the scope of the actual film, I think it was shot really well. I think when the action sequences were there, specifically with The Rock was The Rock. That's one of the things I think when I looked at the trailer, I was like, is he really going to be doing, action, or is he going to be kind of like doing what Vin Diesel did for The Pacifier? When he's in his action moments, he is there. And I think that they are more impactful because they bring on the comedy in a subtle kind of way in the beginning, like it slows and it gets you to this one little emotional moment, and then it kind of like free flows. And then when the action beats happen, they are done very well, personally for me. But then even with the way that they actually shoot the cinematography of different areas and locations, just some of the scenes, they just like, to me, they reminded me of those old 90s amazing comedies. And so I think that they shot it really well. But the other thing that's going to click people, when you first hear the opening song, you're going to be like, this might be a little bit of a classic. And dare I say it might be, but there's a lot of different hip-hop centric, a lot of different upbeat tempoed songs and music references. Like The Rock's character, he makes so many different references to pop culture and entertainment and movies that are not necessarily centered African American films from a stereotype standpoint, but it's like his character is so interesting and dynamic that I really enjoyed it. So as far as the way it was shot like a normal comedy really would, but it didn't miss any steps. Like, it wasn't a moment where I was like, man, this scene's just a little bit too much. Matter of fact, like, there's another character that kind of comes up that I didn't expect to be up in there, like played by the actor Aaron Paul. And I mean, like I said, like the way they do the action, it actually fits. That's the best way I can kind of put it. Now, as far as the actors are concerned, it's so weird. I'm gonna say this, that Kevin Hart, to me, this is my favorite comedy with him. I never really looked at and finished Ride Along, but it felt too campus for me. I really couldn't get into it. I never looked at the second one. Get Hard, I heard, was really funny, but I never could get into that. Think Like a Man, I thought that was actually pretty good timing on his part, but he's kind of like the sidekick. This is, to me, him taking the helms, and he's showing like a small emotional side, more so with like a fish out of water side. That I think that most good comic geniuses have that one movie that kind of sets them off. This might be Kevin Hart's movie for that, because I think that his comedic timing was on point. His fish out of water standpoint was on point, and just generally as a character, I enjoyed his character. I thought that each time that I saw him on screen, I wanted to see more of him. And he plays the role of a person named Calvin, who's like basically an accountant, and like he was the high school quote unquote like person to most succeed, and now he's not like with as far as his life is standpoint. His wife, played by his wife's name is Maggie, but she's played by Danielle Nicolette. She does a pretty decent job. I think that they play off of each other really well. But The Rock, who plays Bob Stone, who changed his name to Bob Stone later on. I'm not going to go into any spoilers, like I said, but his character is so unconventional. Because the reason why I say that is he kind of seems like a kid. Like in a lot of different standpoints. It's like you can tell he's been emotionally damaged and he doesn't know how to interact with people, but he's learned to adjust over the years. When you see the opening cinematic, you'll understand like where he was as a child and why he's been so damaged and why he's been so scarred. And you see that throughout the film when he interacts with his one of his lifetime friends. He calls his friends Calvin. And I think that him and Kevin Hart's chemistry is just on point. It's so weird because there's moments where The Rock makes Kevin Hart uncomfortable, and then there's moments where Kevin Hart is sticking up for The Rock, and it fits. It's like it's a push and pull kind of thing that doesn't teeter too much. I will say there are certain moments and certain sequences that's a little jaded, and it kind of ran over a little bit long as far as certain comedic moments, but they were never misplaced. I think that there was one accountant that worked with Kevin Hart, and he was kind of like annoying personally, but I didn't mind him. There's also a couple like agents that kind of make an appearance into. I think Amy Ryan plays one. I think her name was Pamela Harris. Interesting character there, but really not anything too big. It really was Kevin and The Rock's movie. Like they just killed it for me personally. And then as far as the story is concerned, I'll say this: it starts off as a normal film, but it does take the mention to make you think and process when you have somebody that has this goal, you know, in life, and then they don't succeed 20 years later, and where people end up. Like everybody goes through that process, and when you see these characters and you're kind of like, they kind of like merge into each other, you're kind of felt with the uncomfortability of that, but then it's like this kind of remembrance of like, all right, this is who I wanted to be. How can I get to that point? And I think that they complement each other as far as the story is that standpoint, just as characters. And then the thing about it is there's interesting twists throughout with The Rock's character. Like you're really trying to assess what is his goal essentially, and how and why he needs Kevin's character. So I think that the way that the twist played out, I think it fleshed out well because of the way that The Rock's character is kind of so childlike and at the same time so method and so like just ready to go and get into the bare knuckle action. So I enjoyed this comedy. I thought it was a really good nudge to those classic comedy films such as Rush Hour and Double Take. And those two are some of my favorite films. This felt like Double Take and Rush Hour had a baby, and this is where we got Central Intelligence. I will be buying this movie when it comes out. I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I highly recommend you go and check it out. It's going to be definitely fun for everyone. And if you're a lover of comedies like I am, I think you're going to really enjoy it. Anyway, keep it locked. JVS, we ain't going to stop. I'm about to go and do a quick review for Now You See Me Shoot. But go see Central Intelligence. It's better. Peace, y'all.